Hey, Kyle.
How are we doing?
Not bad. Not bad. Thanks for doing this. You're in a beautiful place. You're in the warmth. Tell it, go on.
Yeah,
I'm on the Welsh border where it looks like just like November at the moment. So tell everybody where you are.
I live in Thailand, in a city called Chiang Mai, which is all the way up in the north. We're in the
Oh,
mountains. We're in the valley actually of the mountains, but I have a beautiful view of the low mountains outside. It's absolutely lovely today. We're in the rainy season, which sounds bad, but it's actually really nice. It's very considerate rain. It rains for like 30, 40 minutes, really heavy drops, and then after that, it's really, really nice and it's really pretty. So this
yeah.
is a very enjoyable time of year.
Perfect place to do SEO, right? Which is kind of what you
Yeah,
do.
if you do have to work indoors, now's the right time to do it because I guess you don't want to go on that hike when you're here and get
No,
caught out in that rain.
exactly. So to tell everybody what you do, and what you've been doing for the last few years on that.
Sure. So I'm an SEO. I co-founded an agency called High Voltage SEO. We have offices in Phoenix, Berlin, Melbourne, and now in Kingston, Jamaica. So we're an international SEO agency. I'm the co-creator of PageOptimizer Pro, which is an on-page SEO tool, and I'm one of the co-founders of IMG Courses, which is a place where some of my courses are. We have over 50 other courses in there where we kind of teach all the different facets of SEO.
Cool. I'll put a bunch of links in the show notes and folks can give them a quick tap and find you in that. We're going to talk about EAT. It used to be EAT, didn't it? And now it's EAT. And it's experience, expertise. I think I'm getting this right. So,
You got it.
authority and trust. Right.
Yeah.
And it's
Technically,
kind of
technically they like authoritativeness and trustworthiness for some reason. I don't know why they.
authoritativeness. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Authority
like
and trust are
that
fine.
sounds like a authoritative. Oh, yeah. So what is it? I mean, is it an actual thing that exists? Is it like a Google algorithm? Is it a thing? Is it a thing at all?
Famously, many years ago, Google did an EAT update. It was called at the time the Medic update because it seemed to go after sites in medicine, health more than other sites, finances too. But it was called the Medic update because it was going after sites that were giving health advice essentially, and ultimately those are things that can hurt you. You know, when it's vitally important to your health, you want good information. But the bottom line of what this is, and when they do these types of sweeps or these checks, and I imagine part of it is in the core algorithm now, is should your site be in the index in the first place? Is your site that's the type of site that Google wants there? And so, while there might not be large sweeping checks for it anymore, I can definitely see a site that might get to a certain level where it's ranking for a certain number of keywords or it's getting a certain amount of traffic. Then it's going to attract this attention to see like, is this the type of site that we want here in the first place? Now that we're giving it all this traffic, I think they do a check to make sure that it's something that is worthy of the index, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. So they're trying to measure via an algorithm, via a computer program. They're trying to measure somebody's expertise and authoritativeness, and they're trying to do that pragmatically. How? Yeah, how?
Well, you hit the nail right on the head.
Because I would imagine this is easy thing to fake, right? I could build a website and I can say I'm an expert at God knows what, whatever it is, right? And it would be very, very simple for me to fake, right?
Sure, you hit the nail on the head that it's a bot that's doing this, not a human. And so it's a trap actually for people that are legitimate businesses. They have this idea that Google is going to walk to their business via their website and say like, oh, this is a legitimate business, or oh, these are real people. But if you're not making it clear to a bot that you're real, it becomes problematic. And you can get hit with this type of update even though you are completely legitimate. You're not trying to hide who you are. Transparency is one of the biggest things, and transparency for a bot. So it's the idea, and taking one step back, last year when they updated, this all comes from the Quality Rater Guidelines, which is something that Google publishes for the people that do manual reviews of this type of thing. They have little circles, little diagram, and they've got authoritativeness, experience, and expertise as three of these circles, and then right in the middle, covering them all, is trust. And what they talk about is if you can't pass the trust threshold, none of those other things matter. And what I think trust comes down to then is who is responsible for this website and who is responsible for this content. And really what it comes down to is, are you a real business, and are these real people? So with that in mind, that we're thinking about a bot coming through and finding these things. And then one other thing is that Google's not in the value judgment game. Google does not want to decide if this expert is better than that expert. That's not what they want to do. They don't want to decide what's better, a degree from Cambridge or a degree from Oxford. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who cares? Or what's even more important, no degree, but you've got 35 years of experience. Again, that's not a value judgment that they want to make. But what they do want to know is if somebody's responsible for this. So if you read this content and you follow this advice and you're harmed, can we find somebody responsible for that? And that's the biggest thing, that somebody's taking ownership of this website, and that's clear, and then somebody's taking responsibility for the content, and that is clear. And so the signals that you need to do, you need to establish we're a real business. We're a real thing. This is our address. This is our phone number. These are our different points of email contact. If you're selling something, this is our return policy. This is how you get a refund. This is what you do if something's broken. This is how you get, you call in your warranty when you need something repaired, like all that information. And so all those things that you can demonstrate to show how real you are so that a bot can find it, the better. And it's never one thing where it's like, oh, I have my address on there and I think I was still hit by this. It's ticking as many boxes as you can for a bot to find those things, to establish you are a real company and these are real people. Now, I also don't think Google's not going out and like reading your LinkedIn profile. They're not.
Right.
And they're like, oh, and then they're going to click on your scholarly paper and read that. They're not doing that. But again, having links out to LinkedIn, to a Facebook page, to boards of certification or industry standard this or that you should have. Again, that's ticking one of the boxes to show that this is a real person. They've done these things. They are qualified to be there, amongst other signals. But at a basic level, is this trust, this transparency? Is there a company? Are these people? Is really the biggest thing to show.
I suppose jumping forward a little bit, the schema side of it, when we can add schema code and we can say this is this person, which is the same as this LinkedIn profile, the same as this Facebook profile, the same. Does that type of thing actually help?
This is definitely what you want to do. Last year we started playing with a lot of AI in order to see, can you find stuff on this page? But we also scrape with Python. Can a Python bot find this? And you have to put in very specific parameters for Python. And if it doesn't see it, then it just doesn't see it. It can't really think its way through it. The AI has a little more capability. But even with AI, it's still missing an address maybe 20 to 30% of the time. It can't see that there is an address there. But if you have it in the schema, it can find it, because it can go in and identify through the schema, okay, here is an address for this company or for this person or for this thing. And the more schema you can do, the easier it is, because more than likely they're not using too much AI to evaluate these things. There maybe some in some circumstances, but the very first check they're going to do is going to be with a bot, and it's going to act more like Python, where it's looking for very specific parameters. And if it can't find it, it can't find it. Then you can't rely on hoping for something a better evaluation or some better eyes, if you will, for a bot.
Yeah. I sometimes think with the schema side of things that Google probably isn't as clever as we think it is, because the schema is basically, it's code which you can slot into the background in various different ways that tells Google definitive things, like this is the name of the company, this is the name of a person, this is the name of a course, this is the name of a product, this is how much a product costs, and all these different things. It can't work. It struggles to work out sometimes just from the page, doesn't it? We need to add this extra code in the background to tell it. Is it not as clever as we think it is?
Oh, it's certainly not. Google is amazing, and it's powerful, and it's wonderful, and it's perhaps one of the most incredible things ever put together. But at the end of the day, it's not a human. And so because it's so powerful and it does all these amazing things, we want to give it human qualities. And we think that, it can reason its way through something. But if Google comes to a page and it sees, the pound sign and then 450, it really doesn't know what that is. You as a human be like, oh, that's a price for this thing. But you have to make that connection very clear. But if
Yeah.
you in the schema, you can say, hey, this is a price, and this is the price for this thing, and then it doesn't have to wade through all of the content and try to make an association maybe with an image of what that is. You make it a lot clearer so that for the bot to come in and identify those types of things, because inherently those words have no meaning, those symbols have no meaning.
Sure.
And you as a human can make some pretty quick judgments as to what it means, but it becomes a lot harder for a bot and a computer to do it.
Yeah. Do you think it's important for the average marketer, the person who's working on the company website, to understand all this?
Yeah, I mean, schema is one of those things that's extremely difficult in its simplicity. But there are a lot of tools at this point that will give you some pretty decent schema that you can insert. You don't have to schema everything on your site, but you do want to schema those important things, especially within this EAT conversation, that identify the realness of you. Generally speaking, sites that are actual companies and brands don't have EAT issues because they don't mind sharing this information. Sites that often have problems are maybe like somebody that's running a site on their own and they don't really want to give away their home address, and they haven't
Yeah.
gotten sophisticated enough in their business practice to have a business address, which they should have, by the way. You should be doing that. But those are the kind of people that have the most issues. But if you're a brand or a company, you really shouldn't have issues with this, and it's the kind of thing that I think you can get done in a couple days worth of work, tops,
Yeah.
to really kind of get
Yeah.
the minimum done that you need to get done.
Yeah, it is an interesting little grey area, that, because there's a lot of people who freelance, they work from home, like myself. I don't have my office is in my home. I don't have my home address on my website. I don't want people coming to the door and saying, do something for me. So, but then if you go and rent an address or something, in a one of those rent an address type places where they'll forward post onto you and things like that. Google again doesn't like that, because you could end up with 100, 200 different people all registered at exactly the same address, couldn't you?
Well, if you have a unique suite number and if you have a unique local phone number, that's sufficient, because that identifies you as a different business. That's what they're looking for. Because
Right.
if you have 250 businesses in the same location and there's no distinction between them, then yeah, that's problematic. Because again, you're hiding who you are. You're trying to get buried on that shelf. But if you have a unique postal address where this is our suite number, and you have a unique phone number that is in service, then it's okay. Then that's a totally fine practice.
Cool. So how does Google measure things like trust and how your authority? How does it measure that?
That is the question, right? Yeah. I think there are two ways that they do it. One is, I think, literally just check boxes. So for trust,
Yeah.
they're looking for that address. They're looking for that phone number, those email addresses. They're looking for a current copyright, stuff like that. They're looking for a cookie policy, GDPR policy, that kind of stuff. They're looking to see that they can identify that there are social profiles on there. There's stuff going out to LinkedIn on there. You've got like an About Us page that talks about the humans that work there. You've got about the company page, those kind of things. And I think, and then also if it's an e-commerce type site, you've got those links for like privacy policy, returns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things. And so that is one certain way that they must be doing it, is just, here's our list of things that we're going to look for. Do you satisfy the minimum requirement of those things?
Yeah.
There is one other layer to that, though, where it does seem that they are getting maybe a little more sophisticated in the quality of the content that's there. I hesitate to say write good content, because that is wildly subjective, but we've been able to, like with AI, to come through and we can determine checklists for each of those things, for expertise, for experience, for authoritativeness, for trustworthiness, and go through a checkpoint, like a list to say, like, from an AI's perspective, are you demonstrating these qualities? Are they actually there and detectable by the AI?
So the quality content is it is completely subjective. You ask any business and they'll say, yes, the content on my website is high quality, and then you look at it and it's actually a bit
It's
crap,
garbage.
to be quite honest with you.
Garbage.
It's rubbish. And I think we were talking just before we started recording. I was talking to a company a few weeks ago, and they've got a big do happening, a big thing happening, and they're producing a paper brochure, which is beautiful. But they're also producing like a little microsite, a little website bolted onto their existing website for this event. And the amount of effort they put into the physical paper is incredible. There are people proofreading and proofreading and proofreading and editing and tweaking and twisting, and there is like a tenth of the amount of time spent on that paper brochure put into the website. Why do I see this quite a lot, that our website doesn't have an enormous amount of focus on it. We don't spend a lot of time on it. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think building a website is very similar to writing a book, and people can't write books. They're not organized enough. They can't get it together enough. And while maybe it's a little bit easier to get published with the website because you don't have to ask anybody's permission, after that, I think it's the same type of labor. And people suck at books, and I think they suck at websites as a result.
Yeah, because if you ask somebody, how long did you spend creating that about the company page, they may say a couple of hours one afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think that's enough.
No.
That's not enough. No.
No, you have to figure, though, there's also so little organization planning goes into things. What should we get on here? In what order should we do it? And then, where people have issues maybe what they think is good content or not, is that they just can't write. What I found, because we've got PageOptimizer Pro, which is an on-page tool, right? And you run content through it, and something that I find pretty interesting is that often terrible content scores very low from an SEO perspective. And so then they have to go in and try to wedge the terms in, and it produces worse content. But the original issue is that the the original content was so bad it missed the mark. Good content shouldn't really miss the mark. If it's written well, then it's like small edits for an SEO purpose. But if you find that you have to do lots of edits for SEO for existing content, that means it wasn't written well to begin with. And that's I think, just a human condition problem, that people are not good writers. They're not organized. They try to throw something together, and then they spend more time worrying about it than actually working on it. And I think they probably feel that worry is work, and it's just not going to get the job done.
Yeah, I think one of the things I see quite a bit is folks talking about themselves and how amazing and how incredible and how wonderful they are, and things like that, which is great in a way. But they don't talk so much about what somebody wants from them. They don't kind of identify all of those pain points and things. You can just go to any company's website, just do a random search or something. There won't be any value propositions at the top saying, this is why we're different to everybody else, this is why you should do business with us. And I think these things are important.
Well, when you think about good sales copy, often it should be talking about the results, right? Sell the whole, not the drill. The idea of what are you going to be getting, what are the results? But then when you think about it, if you come at it from the other direction, from SEO is going to tell you answer questions. What are the questions? It's the same thing. The idea is you're telling people the end result of something, and you can do it through the method of answering questions that they have. But I think you're getting to the same goal in the end.
Yeah, you are. Because, whatever you buy, whatever product it is, whether it's a T-shirt or whether it's a big major business-to-business widget gadget machine thing, there are certain questions that need answering before the purchase happens. There might be, for a big machine thing, it could be lots of questions over a 6-month, 12-month period. For a T-shirt, it could just be instant. I need these answers. And does answering those questions and understanding what those questions are, does that help with the expertise and the authority and the trust and the everything?
I think it would. And one of the ideas on authority actually isn't being like, oh, I'm an authority. I think the concept is actually answering all the questions. An authority is it's a website you can go to get all your questions answered. And so even if you're coming at it from just a sales and marketing perspective, if you're talking about the results, you're answering those questions. People can go because they can figure out what they're going to get, and how this works and all that from that mindset. But then from an SEO perspective, you're getting all of those searches in because you're answering the questions that people have. That idea of authority in answering those questions then gets you into what in SEO we talk about, like topical coverage. Why do you want Why do you want to do that? You want to have topical coverage because then somebody's getting all the information that they need. They're getting all their questions answered, and I think that's where authority comes in, and how you can demonstrate that. One other thing you can see too, and Google likes to talk about this a lot, is UGC, which is user-generated content, and that's where people have asked questions. It's most commonly through a forum or through comments, and that there's a community. There are people coming here, but they understand that you're an authority, and they're asking you questions about what you're doing, or about the product, or about the service. And so another way you can demonstrate that authoritativeness, is that people are willing to ask you a question. They see you as an expert. They see that you are the one to go to that has this information. You're the authority, and now they're asking you questions about it. And so you can also give that signal through not just through topical coverage, and then I think also through questions and answers, that you're demonstrating that people are coming to you to find the answer.
Yeah. So does Google look away from your website to try and work out your EAT, whether you're
I would have to
an
believe
expert or not?
very little. I think if they're on your site, I don't think they're leaving your site. If they're on your site, they're not leaving your site.
Would Google look at what other people are saying about you?
Not necessarily the words, but they would see the links. And so links are certainly one aspect of EAT. It's a lot more outside your control, but sites that have high domain rating or authority from third-party metrics do seem to pass these tests a lot better. And that's because you can think of those sites as votes. And so branded searches, for example. So somebody's branded links. Somebody clicks on it and it's your brand name coming into your site. That means they've identified your brand as something that people should be looking at. There are also things called citations. Citations, for lack of a better word, are business directories. Are you in all the local ones that you should be if you're a local business? Are you in all the niche ones for whatever you're, if you're a plumber, if you're a lawyer, if you're a charity, are you in all of those niche ones? And then are you in the national ones? The national, or the international ones, the global, the ones that exist that match all that information, and does all your information match across all of that? So when Google's seeing these signals coming in, they can kind of see like, okay, they're in all these right directories, they're in all these niche things, they're in all these local things or whatever, and then also all these other websites have voted for them as a real thing. That's certainly going to be a component of it. So Google isn't necessarily coming to your site and leaving, but I think Google is coming from outside your site and counting what's coming in.
Right, I've got you. So links and things like, I hate to just call them links because again, it sounds like a transactional thing, doesn't it? I'll have 10 links, please. The links are still, it's still something you've got to work on. The PR aspect, the getting your name out there, the talking about yourself away from your website is something still important.
Absolutely, and there is the Google says you can't purchase a link, but that's not entirely true. You can purchase something so that Google understands who you are, and that's where things like citations come in. That's where press releases come in. That's where digital PR comes in, and there's certainly a link involved in that, and it is often transactional, but it's done in a way so that Google can understand who you are, so you're building that. That trust, that authoritativeness, that expertise.
Yeah, that's interesting, really. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people have said don't buy links, but then if you pay to belong to a national organization of something, you'll get a link, right?
Yeah, it's a semantic argument. Well, I didn't buy it for the link. I did it for getting into this organization. But at the same time, that Google wants that link. So. It's digital PR is link building. It's just it's just framed in a different way. No, I didn't do it for the link. I did it for this other thing, but I also got the link.
Also got the link, yeah. Honest gov. So is there like an EAT rating? Is there a number? Because marketers love a number, don't they? I've got the number. If I can get to 9 or instead of being a 6, then great. I can show. So is there like a number, a rating, a thing, a measurement?
Not to anyone's knowledge. I'm confident there is one somewhere because they have to. At the end of the day, they have to score it, right? But nobody knows what that scoring might be. This is where checklists come in. And having a way to find what your competitors are doing, because that's always the measurement. If Google is showing those sites on page 1, it likes those sites. See what they're doing. And you'll see things that do change a little bit, kind of niche to niche. On some niches have this more than that, and so you want to make sure that you're at least doing those minimums that your competitors have. But getting in and having a method or a way to do checking things off, that you've got those things present, that a bot can find them, and then I would also do some qualitative measurement on the content itself. Again, can a bot understand what this is about, that it is according to what they might think decent or good, kind of like baseline
So
good.
no third parties have come up with a kind of like, because I know they came up with like the domain authority, didn't they? Which is, that's not a Google thing. I think it was Maz, wasn't it, who decided?
I think Moz
kicked
kicked that one off, and then you've got
over,
Majestic did one, and then Ahrefs and
Yeah.
SEO Commercial, of course, have theirs. My shameless plug is that we do have a pretty decent tool for it. It's just there isn't a score for it. I don't think there's an industry standard score.
No. It's fascinating. I could chat for ages and ages about this, because I still think a lot of it is down to content and answering, not just answering questions, because that makes it sound too simplistic, I think. Because anybody can just write down a list of questions and answer a list of questions. But actual meaningful questions and a kind of understanding what the process is somebody has to go through to buying a product from you or buying something from you, which, like I said before, could be really simple or really complicated. And I think it's difficult sometimes for a lot of marketers to understand what that process is.
Yeah, well, the best way to figure out what questions to ask is to listen to the sales call and listen to the complaint calls. When people call in, what questions are they asking? A really good thing that you see people fall into is like maybe the technical term for something is, the XYZ, 4,892, right? And everybody in the industry knows that, but you're not selling to people in the industry. You're selling to customers, and they call it the whatever they call it, the blue widget.
Yeah.
You need to use that term on your site because that's how they're going to be searching. However they framed it. Or there might be specs that people would say like, oh, everybody knows this is a 2x4, but people outside the industry don't know what they call it. They call it, I need a long piece of wood, I need it about this big, and you need to have to get on there. So one way to do it would be that. I would also say though, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, and a lot of people do try to out clever Google, and they try to, I think, maybe even out clever their users by coming up with something that is so unique and so out there, but it needs to be known. You're not going to teach Google anything new. You're also not going to teach your customers really anything new. You're going to answer those questions. So, I mean, in that sense, but you're not going to like come up with a brand new funnel system.
No.
Or no. You're not going to come up with a new customer journey. It's going to be what's been there. So, the secret is always hiding in plain sight. Someone has already done it, and they've already done it pretty well. And you can take that, and then you can put your brand on it, your tone, your point of view. That's where the uniqueness comes in.
Yeah.
And so, because if you don't have a point of view, then you're really not doing anything probably worthwhile.
Yeah, there's no point. Yeah.
But as soon as you have a point of view on something that is outside of whatever is there, like why your product is better, what specific benefits you bring, what risk people have by not using your product or your service, that then is something you can add to it. But I think the rest of that framework is going to be about the same, in terms of questions that are asked and flow through websites and flow through funnels.
Yeah, fascinating. Kyle, where can we find you? Give me some links. Where can we find PageOptimizer?
You can find the tool if you want to get into EAT and see what's going on with that. Lost the earbud. I caught it though.
There it is.
Mid-air.
It didn't go down the toilet.
PageOptimizer.pro is where people can go, and they can get into EAT there. And if you want to learn about some stuff, img.courses, and then hvseo.co is where the agency's at.
Fantastic, brilliant. I'll stick some links in the show notes and sort that out. Brilliant. Thanks for your time, Carl. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Lots of fun.